Ever since I first heard Don Pasquale, this opera has always occupied a special place in my heart. It's true that it has a typical opera buffa plot, with a pair of lovers trying to surmount the opposition of a stubborn authority figure. However, there's a certain part of the plot which makes it more relatable for me than the others. It's the part where Ernesto is forced to abandon Norvina because his uncle Don Pasquale has thrown him out. I can empathize with Ernesto's predicament. All this while, he has been living what I suppose to be a life of comfort and ease under Don Pasquale's roof on the expectation that he'll inherit Don Pasquale's fortune. To lose that all of a sudden when Don Pasquale boots him out into the cold, cruel world, Ernesto's world must have collapsed in that instant. He knows he can no longer afford to be with Norvina. In the first part of his aria, he conveys his situation well. In the second part of his aria, my heart really goes out to him. Even when all hope has ended for Ernesto, he still continues to put Norvina above him, offering up his best wishes for her. Norvina indirectly needs Don Pasquale as much as Ernesto. As a poor widow in 18th century Italy, where the opera was originally set, I guess her options were very limited. It's not as if she could hunt for a job, or she could look for another man. Hence, for me, even if I frankly find the events during Norvina's sham marriage to Don Pasquale very funny, I think that Ernesto's and Norvina's circumstances give it more substance than the typical opera buffa. Norvina isn't playing her pranks on Don Pasquale out of fancy. She's doing it for both her and Ernesto's survival. That makes it all the more satisfying when Norvina's mischief manages to convince Don Pasquale to dispel the notion of getting married and grant her and Ernesto his permission to marry. Another reason for Don Pasquale's special place in my heart is because of his appealing characters. Again, it's because of the music which they were furnished with. Donizetti's music might not be as potent as Mozart's, in the sense that his characters don't have as much depth in emotion or intensity of expression. His music might not be as animated as Rossini's, in the sense that it doesn't contain as much comic energy, not even during its climax, which really reminds me of Rossini's hilarious ensembles. Nevertheless, Donizetti's music was able to achieve a combination of both Mozart's and Rossini's greatest virtues. It gives the characters enough humanity to be believable and enough spirit for them to have some force of personality. There's the pitiful Ernesto, whom we got to hear earlier. There's the wise and friendly Dr. Malatesta, who seeks to dissuade Don Pasquale from his foolish idea of marrying a young woman and who has compassion for the lovers Ernesto and Norvina. There's Don Pasquale, whose stinginess and irritability makes him the butt of all jokes in this opera. There's the vivacious Norvina. Norvina is one of my favourite characters in all of opera because she has a strong sense of fun, and I feel that she gives the best of herself in everything she does, whether it's scheming with Dr. Malatesta, duping Don Pasquale, and or driving him crazy. To let you have a sense of Donizetti's style, I'm going to give you an excerpt from one of my favorite numbers from the opera, the duet between Dr. Malatesta and Novina. Here, you can experience for yourself what I mean about the personalities of Dr. Malatesta and Novina. In this duet, Dr. Malatesta is rehearsing with Novina how she's to behave as Sophronia when she's to meet Don Pasquale. Did you see Novina monkeying around? That's why I find her so cute. She continues to monkey around when Dr. Malatesta decides she should try the shy and innocent approach. The next part of the duet is the one I love most. I find it heartwarming. We've seen Novina's strong sense of fun. Now we can see how friendly Dr. Malatesta is. He sympathizes with Novina and Ernesto. He sincerely hopes his scheme will work as much as Novina. He gladly joins Novina when they eagerly anticipate the surprise Don Pasquale will be in for and cheers her on.
Corriamo, da gran cimento, viene il cuore da rimeto, lascia lento frano moto, se diremo a disgiocar. Anche vecchio fella questa volta da girar, vecchio fella questa volta da girar, vecchio fella questa volta da girar, vecchio fella questa volta da girar.
In this performance, he even accompanies her as she continues monkeying around, which touches me. Every opera has appealing characters, but another of the things I especially like about Don Pasquale is how balanced his characters are. Donizetti structured the opera in such a way that every one of his 4 leading characters has at least an aria and 2 duets. This gives me adequate time to spend with each of them and chances to know them better. He had to structure the opera like that because he was casting star singers in the 4 lead roles, so he had to ensure they all had sufficient opportunities to distinguish themselves. Finally, there are the ensembles in Don Pasquale. Why Don Pasquale is able to run a close second to Il Barbiere di Siviglia is because of the quality of his ensembles. Donizetti's inventiveness and brilliance is such that he's able to design a variety of musical sections for the ensembles to suit the different actions which unfold. They are not as lively or hilarious as Rossini's, but they do contain a certain amount of energy and fun. That amount of energy and fun is still more than enough to sustain the listener's attention and interest throughout. Here, we have Donizetti playing a musical joke by using the music that sounds like a pair of little boys getting their next prank ready to describe the way Don Pasquale and Dr. Malatesta discuss the note on Novina's secret rendezvous. Don Pasquale's confiding in Dr. Malatesta his plan to nab Novina and her adulterer and hand them over to the police. I particularly like the way Dr. Malatesta in this production keeps trying to interject but to no avail.
Senza perdere un momento conduciamo dove sta e la coppia sciagurata a un mio cielo imprigionata. Senza perdere un momento conduciamo al podestà, senza perdere un momento conduciamo al podestà, senza perdere un momento conduciamo al podestà.
And then, after that section, Dr. Malatesta tells Don Pasquale his plan to release Novena and her adulterer, instead with a strong warning. Note how similar his music is to Don Pasquale's in the earlier section. Donizetti is having Dr. Malatesta reflect Don Pasquale's music for comic effect. It makes it funnier when we hear how Dr. Malatesta is coming up with his own plan, albeit one that's puncturing Don Pasquale's.
Facciamo due promettere che la cosa resti là. Ci facciamo dei due promettere che la cosa resti là. Ci facciamo dai due promettere che la cosa resti là.
Donizetti doesn't round this comic duet out the same way how Rossini rounds his out with a resounding bang. Instead, he rounds his out with a demonstration of patter singing by both soloists. Patter singing is a type of singing which singers in the comic opera repertoire specialize in, where they fire out a series of phrases at machine gun speed. It's very appropriate when you think how a comic duet like this needs uniquely comical singing to end it. The rapid fire singing has enough energy to release all which had been silently accumulating over the course of the duet. If you had fun watching this video, please help me like it. If you like to continue chasing this series, please subscribe to my channel. If you wish to express your views about it or discuss it further, please feel free to leave a comment. Thank you and stay tuned.